Nico Iamaleava absolutely ruined from making that disaster transfer and going to UCLA. UCLA's coach out. Also, Virginia Tech's coach is also fired as well. We're only a few weeks into the college football season, and we already got coaches dropping like flies. We also had some amazing matchups as well, including the overtime game that we'll be breaking down between Tennessee and Georgia. We'll be breaking down some other games that happened from week 3. We're also going to be previewing all the big matchups from week 4. So we got a great show in store for you. So definitely make sure to stay tuned. Starting right now. Welcome back to the Anthony Balester YouTube channel. I'm your host, Anthony Balester. We have a great show this week. Like I said, we had a lot of great matchups from the previous week. A lot of very close games. Not only did we have the great game between Georgia and Tennessee, we also had a great matchup with Texas A&M and Notre Dame. We also had some upsets, so we're going to be breaking that down as well. But first, make sure you follow us across all social medias. I'm on Twitter at Balester555. Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. Make sure, most importantly, if you're watching this, not only should you watch it, but make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, the more content we can bring to you, and the better the content can be. Also, make sure, if you're a football fan, you probably have other friends or family members that are also football fans, so make sure to share it with them. The more people that watch it, the more we can increase that viewer count, and the more that we can increase the subscriber count. Also, make sure to like this video. It helps with the algorithm, and the more likes we get, the more eyeballs we get on this. And again, the more we get of that, the more better content we can bring you, and the more content we can give you guys. So we're going to get into it right now. We're going to start off with the biggest matchups from week 3 of the college football season. We're going to start off with what I thought was probably the best game of the weekend and one of the best games so far this season. And that was the Georgia Bulldogs defeating the Tennessee Volunteers 44-41 in overtime. There was large parts of this game where you thought Tennessee was finally going to get over the hump. Tennessee and Josh Heupel have been a very high-powered offense for years. They've improved their defense the last few years, and it's kind of all coming together for them. And it seems as though the last step, obviously, you want to see them go further in the playoffs, but you want to see them finally get past Georgia. They have been on a huge losing streak against Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. And it looked like this game was different. We've seen their high-power offense look stagnant and get stopped against the Georgia defense. Well, in this game, it wasn't. It was kind of a shootout, surprisingly, with the great defenses. We knew Tennessee has a lot of great defenders with Joshua Josephs and others. But we knew that their cornerbacks were out. We knew Gerald McCoy, potentially the best, one of the best corners in college football. Ricky Gibson was out. So they're relying on some young guys, particularly a freshman. Now, I like their freshman, Ty Redmond. He's been one of the top freshman corners in college football. But when you're going up against Zachariah Branch and others, that the Georgia Bulldogs have one of the best receiving corners they've had in quite some time. That's a tough ask. So this was an absolute shootout. The biggest surprise was what Tennessee's wide receivers were able to do. And in particularly, what the quarterback for Tennessee was able to do. It's crazy. We'll be talking about this later in the show, but this was the team that lost Nico Iamaleava, and he transferred out to UCLA. UCLA's quarterback, Joey Aguilar, transferred in, and we all thought, this guy will be serviceable. He can manage the game. He's been around the block for a while. He's been in college football for quite some time. He's got experience. So he's a guy that, won't lose you the game, but probably won't win it. Well, he did everything in his power and put this team in a position to win it time after time. The plays that him and these wide receivers were making, especially Brassell. Brassell had a huge game for Tennessee. The guy's fast. He's like 6'4", 6'5". They really didn't have an answer for him, and they have a deep receiver core. They got the young guy in Matthews, and they got some other guys. They got some good tight ends as well. So this is a team that has one of the best receiver cores in college football, and Joey Aguilar was making these really good passes that was absolutely destroying Georgia's defensive backs. We know Georgia, with the safeties and the cornerbacks that they have, they have a lot of talent in the back, and they have talent all over the defense. Obviously, you got KJ Bolden at safety. They got an NFL corner as well. You got KJ Allen in the middle. You got some good D linemen like Christian Miller. But Tennessee's offense was, for large parts of this game, was dissecting them. And I was really impressed with Joey Aguilar. After this game, before the game ended, when you thought Tennessee was about to win, in my head, I'm like, oh, wow, Joey Aguilar is going to be number one for the Heisman after this game. And then, unfortunately, his kicker kind of let him down. What ended up happening in this game was Georgia looked like they were on the ropes. Tennessee got the ball. They executed that last drive perfectly. Joey Aguilar, after having touchdown after touchdown, multiple touchdowns on this defense, put this team in a position to kick a game-winning field goal at the end with basically no time left on the clock. Now, Tennessee's kicker had not made a game-winning kick yet. He's a young kicker, not as experienced as you would like, but it wasn't an overly long field goal. I think it was in the low 40s. I know that's long for college, but this was a field goal kick that the guy should have made. It may have even been high 30s, but it was definitely a makeable kick. But he missed it, sent the game to overtime. Georgia deferred, got the ball second. They held Tennessee to a field goal, and then after that, it was over. They got the ball. I believe it was Nate Frazier, the really good running back for Georgia, ran down the field, got this team literally on the goal line, and then ultimately ended up pushing it in. Gunnar Stockton, a quarterback that hasn't been great this season, kind of did a lot of run plays, kind of did a lot of dinking and dunking. He really, really stepped up in this game, and he kind of went touchdown for touchdown with Joey Aguilar. I still believe Joey Aguilar was the best player in this game. But Georgia's defense at times in the second half was able to at least stop Tennessee at points, give Georgia's offense a chance to, answer back, be able to give Georgia's offense time to score. And ultimately, this game came down to the fact that Tennessee wasn't able to finish. It looked like Josh Heupel was finally able to get over the hump, but Kirby Smart and Georgia is able to get the last laugh and continue to win and be this dominant team. No one's going to ever be the what Alabama was with Nick Saban, but I do believe that Kirby Smart and Georgia is the closest thing we have. They're consistently competitive. They may not win the championship every year, but they're always in the thick of it. They're always going to be a tough team to beat, and that's not going to change for a long period of time. But Tennessee going to have to continue this losing streak against Kirby Smart and Georgia. Maybe next year could be the year, but with Joey Aguilar and the performance he made, you have to take advantage of that. How often are you going to have a quarterback play that great and have your receivers do that great against a Georgia defense? Now, had Tennessee had their corners, maybe we're talking about a different game. I know they were targeting the freshmen quite a bit. Maybe if they do have Gerald McCoy and Gibson, maybe they don't give up. Maybe Tennessee doesn't give up 44 points. But, hey, Georgia did what they needed to do, and they continued this streak. But I definitely think Tennessee blew a huge opportunity here. But, like I said, Georgia and Tennessee, I think, are both good teams. I think we proved that there is going to be no drop-off with Tennessee. The way Joey Aguilar has played, he may not be as talented as Nico Iamaleava, but he's got a good arm. He's very accurate. He's very smart. And he runs the offense the way it's supposed to be run. Yeah, he may not have those, ad-lib plays, unscripted plays that you get out of Nico Iamaleava, but in this offense, you don't need that. You just need a guy who's going to run the offense like Hendon Hooker did, and I believe that's what Joey Aguilar has done for this team. So you're not going to see the last of Tennessee. I think they're going to be a team that's really going to push for a playoff spot, particularly since they were able to give Georgia all that they were able to handle. I know they were the home team. Tennessee is one of the hardest places to play, so they did have an advantage there. I do think Georgia on a neutral site field is the better team. But I think these are two teams. Definitely Georgia will be there, and I think Tennessee is going to be right on the bubble. Two teams that might end up being in the playoffs when it's all said and done. Let's move on to another great game. We had Texas A&M beating Notre Dame 41-40. This was another game that went back and forth. Texas A&M really played good late. Notre Dame's running game got going. You've seen Price get a touchdown. You see Jeremiah Love get multiple touchdowns. I thought C.J. Carr had his moments for a young quarterback. The moments that he's had against Miami and against Texas A&M, I've been really impressed with him. But with Texas A&M, we came into the season saying, they got one of the best offensive lines. They do got, some talent on defense. They got really, really great corners, with Ricks and Will Lee. Will Lee is one of the top shutdown corners in football. Obviously, when you look at their offense, the main question coming into the season was Marcel Reed. Can Marcel Reed be able to develop as a passer? And he really has. He's really took it the next step as a passer. And if we're going to get consistent, plays from him in the passing game with the mobility he has, with the running backs that Texas A&M has, this is another team that's really going to be a tough out and a tough team to beat. I want to say another guy that really stood out, a guy who made some plays last year but now has really emerged as one of the top receivers in the country, and that's Mario Craver. This guy is so fast, so explosive. He can take a 2-yard pass and take it for 60-yard touchdowns. This guy is looking like an NFL receiver more and more each and every week, and this guy is going to skyrocket. Thank God that he's only a sophomore for Texas A&M, because this guy would be getting some serious hype for the next NFL draft. But since he is only a true sophomore, they will get him for another year. So I've been very, very impressed with him. But the turning point in this game was what happened on one of the final drives. Notre Dame had an opportunity to make this a 7-point game. They went out, scored. They had a really tremendous drive. They obviously, you knew there was going to be enough time on the clock for Texas A&M to answer. But to go up 7 points, at the very least, even if Texas A&M could pull out a touchdown at the end, you're still going to be looking at overtime. Well, Tyler Buchner, their backup quarterback, the holder, wasn't able to hold onto the ball. And when they went to go kick the extra point, he muffed the hold, obviously causing him to have to run out, throw a terrible pass for, a pass like that. Obviously, I know he wasn't expecting to throw the ball. Everything was a split-second decision. But for a guy who is supposed to be, second, third-string quarterback, he looked like a punter throwing that pass at the end. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to blame him for the pass. I'm blaming him for messing up the hold. Now that makes it a 6-point game. You give Texas A&M momentum. You give Texas A&M an opportunity to where if they go down the field, they can score the game-winning touchdown. Now, Notre Dame's defense had its moments on that drive. They forced them into multiple third downs and ultimately into a fourth down. But Marcel Reed was able to be clutch and throw the game-winning touchdown on fourth down. It's one of the best plays of his career, and it goes to show you the evolution that Marcel Reed has had. Now Notre Dame goes to 0-2, losing a close game to Miami, and an even closer game that should have been theirs to Texas A&M. Notre Dame is a team that doesn't play in the conference, so they can't make the playoffs because of winning a conference due to one of the auto bids to the 5 highest-ranked conferences. So Notre Dame's a team that can't really afford to have losses. I still think a 10-2 team usually makes I know Notre Dame's independent, but they're still considered a power conference team. I think any team that's in the power conference, regardless of them winning their conference or not, if they go 10-2, they probably won't be in the playoffs. But now this leaves no room for error for Notre Dame. They're going to have to completely win out the rest of the season. And that's going to be very, very tough for them. We know they responded last year when they lost to Northern Illinois. But now you got 2 losses. 2 good losses, though. Miami and Texas A&M are very good teams. But now they're going to have to win out. If they lose one more game without having to play, without being able to play in a conference, it's going to ultimately come back to bite Notre Dame. I know they do got a young offensive line. You got a young quarterback. But you got one of the best secondaries in football. You got one of the best running backs in college football. I thought Lennon Moore, the corner, who I believe is the best corner in college football, had a tremendous game. He picked off Marcel Reed. Anytime they went in his direction, you weren't able to get anything done. But, hey, Notre Dame is going to have to be flawless the rest of the year. And Texas A&M, again, like we said about Georgia and Tennessee, they look like a potential playoff team as well. So we just goes to show you the depth and how many good quality teams we have in the SEC. The last game I'm going to speak about is Georgia Tech and Clemson. This was also a very close game. Georgia Tech upsetting Clemson 24-21 with a late game field goal. It was absolutely bonkers because the guy who kicked the field goal, I think his career high at the time was like 50-51. He had to make a 55-yard field goal with no timeouts. They had a run and play first, hurry up, run the offense off the field, run the kicking unit onto the field, and he ultimately nailed the kick from 55 yards. Now, maybe that's a blessing because since there was no timeouts and no time to transition from the offense to the special teams, he didn't have time to think about it. He just had to go out there and kick the ball, and whatever happens, happens. So maybe it's a blessing, but it's definitely very impressive for them to pull this out. Georgia Tech was a very experienced team coming into this season. We know with Haynes King returning, one of the top dual threat quarterbacks, Haynes the running back. We knew they had multiple defenders, Harvey at corner, Eford at linebacker, and others. This was a very experienced team, and this was going to be the best Georgia Tech team that we've seen. That's why I liked them to beat Colorado. And I didn't think that they'd pull this off, but I thought that they'd make it close. The difference in this game, though, was Clemson's offense. Again, Cade Klubnik does not look like Cade Klubnik. This was a quarterback who was one of the best quarterbacks in college football the last couple of years, and he had improved each and every year. That's why a lot of draft experts said, well, if this guy improves every year, if he improves just like he did the last couple of years, this is a guy who's going to be in the conversation for the top quarterback in the draft. And he's been everything but that. The guy struggled against LSU. And again, that's LSU. We know LSU's got a good defense. So we were like, okay, we'll give you that. Then struggles again against Troy. And then now struggles again against Georgia Tech. This was an offense that gave up multiple turnovers. I know they don't got their best receiver, but they got other good receivers that they could rely on. And when you take out the long touchdown that I believe that Wesco had, this was an offense that completely put up a dud against a Georgia Tech team that does have a lot of experience, but no one would consider them an elite defense. So I don't know what Cade Klubnik, what's going wrong with him. This is a defense that did make a few plays. We know they got the talent with Peter Woods and T.J. Parker. But again, their defense, with all these top 10 potential NFL draft picks, we thought they might be in the conversation for the best defense. Now, I believe that they're a very strong defense, but even their defense hasn't looked as great as it once was, or as what we previously thought. But I'm not going to blame the defense. The defense definitely has put the team in well positions. So the defense may not be as great as we thought, but they're definitely, good enough and making enough plays to where the offense is consistently putting this defense in a bad situation. With all the turnovers, with all the, 3 and outs, Clemson's defense is expected to do so much more. So Clemson's got to get the offense fixed. I know I picked them to make not only the playoffs, but win the championship. That's gone. Now having 2 losses, having a loss in conference, their playoff odds now are under 10%. So they'd be lucky to even make the playoffs now. And when you look at other teams in the conference, like Miami and others, how are they going to be able to compete when they play a team like Miami who's got a good defense? They have a much better offense. Right now, Carson Beck looks like head and shoulders the better quarterback than Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik's draft stock is depleting very, very quickly. So I don't know what Clemson's going to do, but it seems like their season already only through week 3 may already be over. Now let's move on to some news that happened off the field. We had DeShaun Foster and Brent Pry fired. I think obviously firing head coaches this early in the season, it's very head scratch. You would like to see head coaches at least get, a half a season, at least give them time to fix what's going wrong. But I think with the struggles that these coaches have had, rightfully so. DeShaun Foster was there last year, didn't do much. He seems to be absolutely destroying Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava has no confidence to speak of whatsoever. The offensive line can't protect. They can't get anything in the running game. Their defense is absolutely getting gashed. This was a team that not only got killed by Utah, but now has lost to group of 6 teams. They're not even losing the power conference teams. They're losing to group of 6 level squads that got guys who may have 1 or 2 guys who may make the NFL, but mostly guys who are going to end up having other occupations post their football careers. So to be losing to teams like that, and then for Virginia Tech, with the defensive talent that this team has, with some of the receiver talent that they have, with Kyron Jones, one of the better dual threat college quarterbacks we got in this game, for them to get absolutely dumped and blown out by Old Dominion, that is, unacceptable. And I know, UCLA lost to New Mexico. New Mexico was a team that played pretty well against Michigan before that game went south. So maybe they're a much better team than we thought. Maybe Old Dominion's a much better team than we thought. But the talent that particularly Virginia Tech has, that's inexcusable. And with DeShaun Foster, it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. He's been there last year. He may have even been there the year before, but I know he's been there the last 2 years. Things aren't getting better. They're only getting south. It looks like both these teams need a fresh start. And it's just unfortunate. It's a unfortunate tale of what not to do as a young quarterback or a young player with Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava had all the talent, had all the potential to be a future first-round NFL draft pick, was making millions of dollars at Tennessee. You played in a system that's very great for quarterbacks and really beneficial to you. Decided he wanted to hold out for more money. I don't know if it was an agent or a dad or others in his circle that convinced him to do it. The NFL team, the college team, the Tennessee Volunteers, did not, give him into his demands. Obviously that would have been a bad look for the rest of colleges. That would have gave the incentive to all college players to hold out for more money. They did the right thing for them in the locker rooms of all college football teams. Decided to dismiss him. He finds out no other team is willing to give him the money. Not only that, no team's even willing to give him the same amount of money, NIL money he was going to be getting from Tennessee. So now you make less money. You go to a UCLA team that's got no help around you, and now you're not playing in a system that's beneficial to you, that's going to put you in favorable positions. So I just think that this is a lesson for all other quarterbacks to not do this. Finally, before we get into our game picks, we'll hurry up and recap all the major things that happened in Week 3. We had the Miami Hurricanes ending the Cinderella run of USF, the University of South Florida. I still think they can be the Group of 5 representative after beating Florida, after beating Boise State. I still like Byron Brown. He's a very explosive player, but it goes to show you that Miami is just that great. They got one of the best offensive lines, one of the best defensive lines. Ruben Bain has been probably the best defensive player in all college football. He looks like a top 3 NFL draft pick. Carson Beck looks like the old Carson Beck. This team has a plethora of wide receivers. Each week there's a new wide receiver that breaks out, whether if it's a new freshman, whether if it's one of their upperclassmen. They got a good corners now. This team is firing on all cylinders, and it goes to show you the difference of when you play Florida to when you play Miami. Miami is just that good this year, and got to give them all the credit. I still think South Florida could be a really good team that makes the playoffs, but they just can't compete in the same playing field as the Miami Hurricanes. We also had, speaking of Florida, LSU beating Florida. I believe it was 20-10. And yeah, Garrett Nussmeier made some good plays, made some good throws, but it was LSU's defense. They continue to dominate each and every week. And, with Mansour Delane and A.J. Hussey, they lost Whit Weeks, the targeting. They lost their other linebacker as well. And this team still defensively played great. They had DJ Lagway not knowing what he was going to do. He didn't know who he was going to throw the ball to. He didn't know what players he had on his team. And LSU just had him confused. Now, DJ Lagway is a very talented quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school. And there was so much expectations for him. And then to go out there and throw, 4 or 5 interceptions? He threw so many interceptions, it seemed like I was watching the same plays on repeat, and I kind of lost count. So DJ Lagway is a guy who's got the talent, but talent would only get you so far. Now, he's a quarterback that's got talent around him. He doesn't have the same excuses that Nico Iamaleava has. Nico Iamaleava is trying to make something out of nothing. DJ Lagway has the pieces around him to be successful. I don't know if it's a Billy Napier problem. I don't know if it's a DJ Lagway problem, but something's got to give. We'll find out as the season goes on is if it's the coach, the quarterback, or both. We'll find out, because if this doesn't get fixed, Billy Napier is going to be out as the head coach. He'll be looking for work elsewhere. I know he'll get a decent buyout. That's good. But he'll be looking for a job elsewhere. And DJ Lagway may be hitting the transfer portal and having to go somewhere else. Lastly, I'm going to say is Alabama. We knew they responded well after the loss to Florida State, blowing out Louisiana Monroe. But we're not going to take anything from that. We want to see what they're going to look up against
against a power conference school. And they went up against Wisconsin and actually blew the doors off them. Ty Simpson looked like one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Ryan Williams finally had that big explosive game we've been waiting all season for from him. And Alabama, their defense looks better. Their offense looks better. I think they finally got a really good quarterback. I have more faith in Ty Simpson. So if they're going to continue to play like this, now I know they have a really hard schedule, and them losing to Florida State with the tough schedule they have is going to be really tough. We know 3 losses put you on the bubble and maybe on the outside looking in. 2 losses to get you in. So Alabama can still only afford 1 loss, and with that hard schedule, it's going to be tough. But if Ty Simpson is going to play like that, if Ryan Williams is going to play like that, if Bernard, the other receivers are going to play like that, they'll get their defensive tackle back. They'll get their other running back from injury as well. If all these pieces fit in together, they're going to play like this. This is a team that maybe does only lose 1 more game and maybe are looking in as a playoff spot. So I think Kalen DeBoer's got that team looking like it should be. And maybe Kalen DeBoer can save his job and can save and change the perception that he has after all. Now let's break down some games. We got some good games this week. We got number 17 Texas Tech and number 16 Utah. Utah, being the home team, is a 3.5-point favorite. This is a very tough game to pick. Utah has a very talented defense that could disrupt any quarterback. We know they have Devin Dampier, who's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks. The guy can make throws. He's super athletic. The guy's one of the most mobile quarterbacks you'll see. What he could do in the ground with his legs, when you rush him, that's what he wants you to do. Because every time he gets any sort of pressure, he's moving out, making plays. Texas Tech, on the other hand, has talent across the board. What they did in the transfer portal with the additions that they had, they have one of the best receiving corps in college football. I really like their quarterback, Braylon Morton. He's a very accurate guy. I like the defensive pieces that they have, led by their pass rusher they got on the transfer portal, David Bailey. I think that's going to be the difference. I just think Texas Tech, they're going on the road. It's a tough environment to play against Utah. I just think that Texas Tech has more talent. And we'll see who's the better quarterback. But in terms of in the passing game, I like Texas Tech's quarterback better. In the running game, I like Utah's quarterback better. Now, with Utah's defense being at home, maybe they can win that way. But I just love Texas Tech's talent a little bit more. I think they got more talent across the board. I like their receivers a lot better. I like their running backs a lot. And I just think that they got more NFL talent across the board, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Utah does have one of the best offensive lines. They got multiple guys who are going to be first-round NFL draft picks on that offensive line. So maybe that helps against guys like David Bailey and others. But I'm going to go on a limb here and pick the upset for Texas Tech to win. We have a really big SEC matchup here. We got number 22 Auburn going on the road to number 11 Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 6.5-point favorite. Auburn is a team who looks like they're meeting all the expectations they have. They got Cam Coleman, one of the most talented receivers. They got other guys as well to complement them. So this is one of the most explosive receiving groups in the country. They got some good running backs. I like their breakout running back that they have. Jackson Arnold, we still got to see what he could do in the passing game, but what he's done on the ground with his legs, he looks unbelievable. He finally got his confidence back, and he's playing against his old team in Oklahoma. Now, I think Oklahoma did Jackson Dart wrong. After losing his offensive line and using his receivers, how can you expect a young quarterback like that to succeed? And because he had his issues, they wanted to move in another direction. Now, they may have done him wrong, but I believe that they made the right choice. They got John Mateer. John Mateer is one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, and this guy is moving up the NFL draft board. I know he's got a couple turnovers, but outside of that, what this guy's able to do, he looks like a more talented, explosive version of Baker Mayfield. If you took Baker Mayfield and made him a little bit more athletic and made him more as a better runner, that's what he reminds me of. He also reminds me kind of like Bo Nix, where he's able to make these accurate throws on the run. He's able to get outside the pocket and make these plays. And they got a lot of receivers. They got a lot of talent, Burks and others. I like their tight end, who was a former linebacker. They got multiple good running backs, but their defense is really good as well. They got multiple defensive linemen that you could rely on. They go about 3 to 4 deep at that position. They got about 3 or 4 good edge rushers led by our Mason Thomas. Then when you look at their defensive backs, they got great defensive backs as well. They got great linebackers. This team doesn't really have a hole on defense. So when you got one of the best defenses in college football, you're the home team, you got one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I got to see what their offensive line looks like. But at the end of the day, them being the home team, and I just trust John Mateer as a better all-around quarterback than Jackson Arnold. And I know Auburn, they got some good players as well on defense, led by Falk, one of the Kendrick Falk, one of the best edge rushers in college football. They obviously got a really talented secondary as well with some young guys. I just think as a whole, I like Oklahoma. But against a talented team like Auburn, 6.5 points is a lot to ask for. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma to win, but Oklahoma no cover. Now we got an important Big Ten matchup here. We got number 9 Illinois going on the road to number 19 Indiana. Illinois has, besides what they with some of the drives they had against Duke, has looked like they've met all expectations. Duke had a really good defensive game plan for them, but we've seen as the game went on, Luke Altmaier was able to dissect that defense in the fourth quarter. They were able to make adjustments. They got some receivers who have really broken out to replace some of the guys they lost in the draft. They got some good running backs, but I can see this being a very, very low-scoring game. Illinois with Xavier Scott, who's looking like a first-round NFL draft pick at the cornerback position. Gabe Jacobs, who is a guy who could stop the run and create havoc for the passing game, rushing the passer. You look at Indiana. This is a team that's got players on almost every single position that you can rely on. Fernando Mendoza, a guy that a lot of NFL experts were clamoring for heading into the season, kind of a guy who was unknown, but what this guy did at Cal, where he didn't have a good offensive line, he didn't have great receivers, and he was just making something out of nothing. Now he goes to an Indiana team where he's got Surratt, who's an NFL caliber wide receiver. He's got these other guys. He's looking like one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the draft, but in the country. This guy has, in my opinion, went from probably a day 2, second, third round pick to now he's probably in the conversation for the top quarterback in the draft. With him, Garrett Nussmeier, and Carson Beck, maybe if you want to throw a underrated guy who wasn't being talked about, and Dante Moore and John Mateer, those guys are all competing and look like the top draft eligible quarterbacks. And you can make an argument along with Carson Beck and maybe John Mateer, maybe Fernando Mendoza has looked the best. The guy's 6'4", 6'5". He looks like an NFL-style quarterback the NFL teams love to have. So, and with what Indiana's offensive line is able to do, you see what he did last year when he had no talent around him. Now that he's got the players around him, you see why he's been one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He's a fourth-year junior. He's got the experience now. Now he's in his second year as a starting quarterback. I love everything he brings with the size, the arm strength, the accuracy. You've seen those dimes that he's been throwing. Yeah, Indiana has played against some subpar competition, but a tight window throw is a tight window throw, and he's making that. So I've been very impressed with him. And then when you look at the talent that this team has around him, particularly on and then on the other side of the ball, with Fisher as the inside linebacker, with Kamara at the edge rusher position, with Pons at the cornerback position, these are all guys that are moving up in the draft. Fisher probably looks like a third, fourth round draft pick. Kamara looks like he could be a second, third round draft pick. And then Pons looks like he might be a first, second round pick. And then when you add that to a potential first round quarterback with Surratt, a first or second round receiver, this is a very talented team. So this is two teams that got very talented defenses, very talented under the radar offenses. I think Indiana being the home team makes a difference. Even though Luke Altmaier has looked like an NFL quarterback that could end up going day 3, he's not going to be a guy you're going to draft as your franchise guy, but a guy you draft in the 6th or 7th round who's got some mobility, who can ad-lib, can make accurate throws, a guy who works really hard, has improved each and every season. He looks like a guy that can be drafted in the NFL, but I think Fernando Mendoza is the much better player. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think he's going to be able to consistently make more plays in the passing game. So I'm going to go with Indiana to win and cover. We got a very, sneaky good matchup here. We got Tulane, who along with South Florida looks like the best team outside of the power conferences. This was a Tulane team that absolutely destroyed Northwestern and then absolutely destroyed a Duke team. Drake Retzlaff, he's just, picking up right where he left off last year. What he did last year, out at BYU, he was one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12. He was a quarterback that really broke out. He looked like, a day 3 quarterback with his mobility and his accuracy. He goes to Tulane after, the drama that happened in BYU, and he looks even better than ever before. The guy's getting like 3 it seems like he's getting multiple rushing touchdowns each and every game. He's also contributing in the passing game. Tulane's defense has looked great. I believe it's White, the corner / safety, who's got 3 interceptions this year. So Tulane's got one of the best secondaries in college football. Their offense can't be stopped. Jake Retzlaff is getting good protection through the offensive line. They got some decent receivers. Going on the road, though, in the SEC environment against Ole Miss, this is the game where they're going to need Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons is a guy who's big, fast, and athletic. He's got all the talent in the world to be a first-round NFL draft pick. They got some good running backs. I love their wide receivers. They got a plethora of wide receivers like Wallace, Lee, and others. I love their defense as well with Perkins, Xavier Harris at defensive tackle. So this is a team that's got talent across the board. Austin Simmons is dealing with an ankle injury. I think if they looked in the last game where they won very closely against Arkansas, they're in a position where if they really need him, they'll play him. And I think this is a game where they wanted to have him rested up for. I think playing on the road, I think it's too much to ask for Tulane to pull off an upset here. So I am going to go Ole Miss to win. But with Ole Miss, as we record this show, being an 11.5-point favorite, I expect that point spread to come down a little bit. That's a lot of points to give up against a team that has a good secondary. We know Austin Simmons, who is talented, can struggle and have turnovers. And if he's not even 100%, when he was at 100%, he was turning the ball over. What is he going to do if he's dealing with an ankle injury? So I'm going to go with Ole Miss to win, but that's too many points. I'm going to go with Ole Miss, no cover. Now we got number 21 ranked Michigan, a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Nebraska. Dylan Raiola has really taken the next step. He looks every bit the quarterback we thought, throwing his sidearm throws, throwing on the run. He's big. He's strong. He's a guy who's got all the talent you'd want out of a quarterback. He's stocky. Nebraska's a team that finally has wide receivers that have emerged to go with the quarterback. They've been desperately needing receivers for a long time. We know Nebraska's always going to have a really stingy defense that can give quarterbacks fits. I know Bryce Underwood, the 18-year-old quarterback who has made strides, is still at the end of the day an 18-year-old freshman quarterback going on the road against a very tough Nebraska defense. But, man, with Justin Hayes, the explosive plays he's made in the running game, with some of these wide receivers like Morgan and McCauley, who's really helped Bryce Underwood, with the defensive talent that Michigan has, they go 2-3 deep at almost every position, whether it's corner, linebacker, defensive line. I think Michigan is the more talented team. So I'm going to go Michigan to win this game and cover, but this is very close. I think it's going to be a huge matchup between Dylan Raiola and Bryce Underwood. I think Dylan Raiola is the better quarterback at this time, but I think Michigan is the more talented team. But there are obviously going on the road. This is a very tough pick. But I'm going to go with Michigan to win and cover. If the point spread was any higher, I would go Michigan no cover. But if it's right now at that 2.5, or if it only goes up to about 3.5, I'll take Michigan to cover. If it goes up to 4 or more, I would go Michigan no cover. We have another big matchup here. Florida trying to rebound after losing back-to-back games against South Florida and against LSU. But come on now, they're going up against Miami. I know we can't, math doesn't work in here, but you got a Florida team who lost to South Florida close, and they're playing a Miami team who absolutely blew out and didn't even, made South Florida even look like they belong. Miami just looks too good. They look like one of the best teams in the country. They beat teams at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Their defensive line is great. Their offensive line is great. They'll have multiple NFL draft picks there. They have a tackle who could go top 5 in the draft. They got an edge rusher who could go top 3 in the draft. Carson Beck's looked like every bit of a first-round pick quarterback. And how can you trust Billy Napier and DJ Lagway at this point in time? You just can't. So this is a perfect opportunity for DJ Lagway to rebound. But if he's throwing multiple interceptions, how is he going to be able to play any better going on the road against Miami Hurricanes, who look like they got one of the best defenses in college football as well? So I think this is an easy pick. I expect a big game out of Ruben Bain. I expect a big game out of Carson Beck. And I don't think this is the game for Florida to turn their season around. I think it gets worse before it gets better. So give me it's not even a huge point spread. It's a 3-point spread. But maybe Vegas is expecting Florida to rebound and play better. I don't think it's going to matter. Give me Carson Beck at Miami to win and cover this game. We got a big Big 12 matchup. We got Arizona State on the road against Baylor. Right now, Baylor's a 1.5-point favorite. Baylor is a really good team. They had a really close game that they lost to Auburn. They had a very close game that they ended up coming back and winning against SMU. Those are 2 quality teams. Sawyer Robinson, he just building on what he did last year, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. They got multiple good wide receivers. Bryson Washington, he's improving his draft stock as well. He's a bull that you're not going to be able to tackle with 1 or 2 guys. He's very strong at the point of attack. Whenever one guy comes in there, he's most likely to break it. Obviously, he got to fix his fumbling issues, but I like him. I don't trust Baylor's defense. Baylor's defense has had its struggles. They got a couple of guys on defense I like, but as a whole, I don't trust their defense. And Arizona State, a team that lost a couple weeks ago to Mississippi State, they're trying to rebound from that. Obviously, that loss was an out-of-conference loss, so it shouldn't hurt their playoff hopes too much. They still got everything in front of them. If they finish with 1 or 2 losses, none of those losses coming in the conference, or even if they just get 1 conference loss, that should still be enough for them to get to the conference game. I still think they're the most talented team in the Big 12. I know they're going on the road against a really experienced quarterback, but I expect Sam Levitt to play great. They got probably the 2nd or 3rd best receiver in college football, the best receiver in the draft, because the guys that are ahead of him are only sophomores. And Jordan Tyson, he's running away with it with the top receiver in the draft class. He has great explosive plays each and every week. Arizona State's getting contributions out of multiple running backs. And I like their defense. I know their defense struggled against Mississippi State, but overall, I like their defense. They have a lot of guys who returned last season this year. Those guys are just much more experienced now, and I think that's going to be the difference. We got 2 good quarterbacks in Robinson and Sam Levitt. I think Jordan Tyson is better than any playmaker that Sawyer Robinson has at his disposal, and I think Arizona State's going to have the better defense in this one. So give me Arizona State to finally put themselves in a good position after losing a couple weeks ago to Mississippi State. Give me Arizona State to win an upset. We got 2 more games left. We got Michigan State on the road against USC. USC is a huge 17.5-point favorite. Michigan State, with Jonathan Smith, the head coach, they look like they've taken the next step. They got some good young running backs and Frazier I like. I like Aiden Chiles. He's a very talented, big, athletic quarterback. He's proved that he can finally be an accurate quarterback. That was his one downfall. He's become more consistent in that department. Nick Marsh looks like a future top 10 NFL draft pick. Again, he's only a 19-year-old sophomore, so they'll still have him for a year. Jordan Hall and some other guys. Jordan Hall is a really good defensive player that they have. But overall, I don't think they have enough defensive talent to stop what USC is about to bring them. Jada Mavia can make plays on the run. He can make plays scrambling in the pocket. and the receiver talent that this team has. They got some young sophomores and freshmen I like. They got one of the best duos with Jacoby Lane, who could catch anything that's thrown his way, whether if it's one-handed, two-handed. Malachi Lemon as well. These are two probably first-round NFL draft picks, and when you got two first-round NFL draft picks with Lincoln Riley coaching them, with a quarterback now with his second year in the system, 3 years now as a starting quarterback because he started at a group of 5 team beforehand. Now he's in his third season as a starter, second season in the system. USC's defense looks improved. They got some transfer guys who's making plays in the secondary, so now you got to improve the defense for USC. I like their running backs as well. 17.5 points is a lot against an undefeated Michigan State team where you know their offense is going to at least make some plays. So give me USC to win that game, but give me a USC no cover. And in the final game, now this point spread could change depending on an injury. We have an SEC matchup, South Carolina against Missouri. Missouri is a 13.5 point favorite. This is going to hinge on Lenore Sellers. Lenore Sellers, I believe, has a potential concussion. He may not play. If he does, I believe that point spread comes down a little bit. But again, I just think Missouri is a better team. Plus, they have the home field advantage. Lenore Sellers is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. He's still got to become a better passer, but he's a guy who's big and strong. If he can take that next step, he's a guy who he's either going to be Anthony Richardson or it's going to be Josh Allen. That's a crazy spectrum, but that's what this guy brings. I believe he's much closer to Josh Allen than he is though Anthony Richardson. Then you look at Nick Harbor, guy who's 6'5", 235, running a 4.3-4.4. He's got to be accounted for. Their defense, they got great defensive players on every level. Dylan Stewart's one of the most explosive edge rushers. He could do it all, stop the run, rush the passer. They got some other guys like Fred Johnson. They got some good secondary players as well with Kilgore. But Missouri, man, they also got a great defense that got players all over the field at every level. And offensively, I love the running back much better than the running back I like for South Carolina, Ahmad Hardy, who has been one of the top running backs in college football. He's only a sophomore. They brought him in as a transfer, rushing for like 200-something yards last week. Prubella, the quarterback transfer they have, we knew he could run the ball, but can he make passes? Well, he has. He's been one of the more accurate quarterbacks. Now he shows why he could be one of the top dual threat guys in the country. He's able to kill you with his leg. He's able to kill you with his arm. Kevin Coleman Jr. is a receiver who's improved each and every year. I know he's transferred and played for a lot of schools, but the improvements he's made with the other speed that they got at wide out. So this is a team that's got one of the top running backs in the country. They got one of the top offensive lines in the country. You got a great dual threat quarterback. You got explosive wide receivers, and you got a very talented defense that got players all over the field. If Lenore Sellers doesn't play, this is an easy pick. Go Missouri, no cover. If Lenore Sellers can play and isn't out, then I believe I would go Missouri, no cover. So give me Missouri to cover. I believe if Lenore Sellers plays, the number drops. So if the number drops down to, say, 7 or 8 points, even with Lenore Sellers playing, because Missouri is the home team, I would go Missouri cover. But right now, I'm going to go Missouri to cover, and we shall see if Lenore Sellers can play. That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to stay tuned each and every week. We obviously do an NFL show and a college football show each and every week, so you're not going to want to miss it. Next week, we'll be breaking down all the big news from this week while also previewing all the big college football games for the week after. Each and every week, we're going to be breaking down each and every game, all the big games from the previous week, and previewing all the big matchups that we have in store. But make sure that if you're watching this, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, the more content we can bring you, and the better content we can make and improvements we can make. Make sure that you like and share this video. The more people that watch it, the more people are likely to subscribe. The more people that like this video, the better it helps with the algorithm. And in YouTube, when you help the algorithm, it helps out a lot, and the more videos we can bring you guys. Also, make sure to follow us across all social media on Twitter at Balester555 and Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. That's going to do it for this show. It was great to have you guys with me. We'll be back next week. We'll catch you guys then. enjoy the college football this weekend.